Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, jbiztechvalley.com, and as you can see here, columnist for the Jewish Press.
And I'm having a lot of fun doing all of that, and my column is about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. But with us today is a person who's within a governmental agency. He's the sheriff of Schenectady County, Dominic Dagostino. So welcome to the Jewish View.
Well, it's good to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. Tell me what about your department, because you have how many staff, how many officers, what, some of the programs, and what do you do? That should fill up the half hour.
We probably could. I've been with the Sheriff's Office now for 7 years, going on 8. I started my law enforcement career with the Rotterdam Police Department. I spent 20 years with them. Majority of that time was spent in the detective division, running the detective division itself. But during the past 7 years with the Sheriff's Office, we've instituted quite a few programs, both within the correctional facility and with respect to our law enforcement. One of the first things that we did with the correctional facility was become accredited, which was a very important milestone for us. We felt that was a major goal that needed to be accomplished as quickly as possible. And what that basically says is that we operate by best practices and best standards, and it's recognized as such. So that was one of the big kickers that we completed early on in our tenure.
Who accredits the Jew County?
We went through the State Sheriff's Association. They have an accreditation program statewide. They have accreditors that travel to different facilities that are wishing to be accredited. They review their policies and procedures and the standards that they're supposed to follow. And if they're within those compliances, they're subsequently accredited. And we were fortunate enough to become one of those agencies.
Why weren't you accredited with all the other years that you've been around, that the Sheriff's Department?
I guess every sheriff has different goals and different focuses. That was just one of ours that we felt was necessary.
Yeah, I would think it would. How many cells do you have in the jail?
We, in lieu of cells, we have floors. We have a maximum capacity of 378. People. Right now we're at about 336. Of that 336, 30, I think 35 are women.
And how many from out of the county?
That's hard to say, because the majority of those arrests occurred within the county. Some of those people are recently.
But isn't there a thing where other counties pay if they're overcrowded, or they?
There is. We don't board in from.
You don't?
No.
Oh, Albany does.
Yeah, Albany's facility is much bigger than ours.
900 something.
Yeah, and we're right now, like I said, we're at 336, so we have roughly 40 beds open, and that gets kind of tight.
What would be, you'd say, the number one crime that you're worried about? I mean, we've had, Mark and I have so many, like, again, police officers, DAs, and they just say drugs is the number one thing. But
right now, the heroin epidemic is our focus, and because of such, we about a year and a half ago established a narcotics enforcement unit within the sheriff's office. We currently have 4 people in that unit, and we work with other agencies as well. Last year, I want to say we investigated. We had 75 drug investigations. Of those 75, 53 were heroin or fentanyl or opioid related.
But this is a local people, the guy in the street. I mean, because I always think, I mean, it's coming from somewhere. The local guy, Schmo in the street that's selling this, it's out higher and higher and higher. I mean, obviously you're not an FBI agent. You can't go all over the country.
We're finding that a majority of our heroin is coming from the city, from downstate, and it's being transported up here. People are establishing themselves or have been established. Previously, the concern, the primary concern within the drug world was crack cocaine, which was an epidemic in and of itself. Yeah. Years back, but heroin is taking a fast track to take over.
I remember watching the old Dragnet shows, which were based on true stories in L.A., but heroin was all over the place back
Real?
in the sixties. I mean, these were true stories, so that's why I bring it up, not to
Yeah.
think that TV is reality, but.
Heroin has risen and fallen in popularity
Over the years.
throughout the years. Right now, I call it an equal opportunity drug. It's non-discriminatory. It doesn't know gender. It doesn't know race.
No.
It doesn't know socioeconomic class. It
Right.
doesn't know geographic location. It's almost omnipotent in the respect of its existence
The one
throughout
thing you
our.
don't want to have be omnipotent.
We want God to be up there.
Yeah.
But it's cheap also, that's what they
It's
say.
a very, very cheap, relatively cheap product to purchase on the street. So,
So people are just using, I mean, again, we've had so many people and just senators just saying that there's a four-prong. One is education. I mean, maybe that's where I come in, I'm as a rep, surely I'm not a policeman, but, to teach kids, this is dangerous. I mean, just even the most simple survival, I mean, you're gonna get hooked on it. It's not like a little, all right, you have a beer, you're not gonna be hooked on it drinking a beer. But, I mean, just saying, it's very, very, very serious.
it is highly addictive, and there is a four-pronged approach or attack to the heroin problem. They talk about prevention, they talk about rehabilitation, they talk about education, but the one thing I don't hear a whole lot of talk about is enforcement,
Right.
or nearly enough talk about it for my comfort level.
Well, the Senate, the Senate just put out a task force report last week, very recently, and that was one thing that that was recommended is more law enforcement and along with the education.
Right, we can't forget that end of it, We don't want to approach it in the respect that we want to arrest and lock up drug users, okay?
Mhm.
However, we certainly want to make a concerted effort to lock up the drug dealers,
Yeah.
whether they're low-level, mid-level, or upper-level.
As casinos come into Schenectady County, or casino, how are you ramping up in terms of the law enforcement and increase? Are you expecting an increase in heroin and opioids? Are you expecting more crime? I mean, does it?
I've been asked that question quite a bit.
I didn't think I was unique in that, but I thought I'd
No,
get you
not
on
at
the
all.
record.
But my response typically has been, we pretty much have the smorgasbord of crime in the city of Schenectady. I don't think the casino is going to bring anything new to us that we don't already have or that we're already dealing with.
But don't you need more? I mean, might you need more officers? or-
Certainly, I would love more police officers. Any law enforcement
Right.
leader worth their salt is never going to tell you they want less.
How many law enforcement officers are there in the sheriff's?
Now, we're a small road patrol unit. We have a staff of over 200. However, of that 200, the majority of those are correction officers and
Right.
civilian staff.
But
We
how
have
many
a
are there?
law enforcement, we have a road patrol of 14, and then we have our narcotics unit of about 4. Now, we have, with respect to the casino, we just initiated last year the Marine Patrol again.
Right.
Okay, to patrol the waterway, the
What's
waterways.
gonna happen underwater?
I was gonna
Well,
ask you about
the-
that. Well,
That
the
casino
casino's
is
the
right
water.
on
Yeah, I
the,
mean, so what crime's gonna happen underwater?
what you're gonna be seeing a lot more of is people traveling to that casino via waterway. With the waterways open, what you see a lot of, and we're not so much looking to enforce as we are to educate and maintain safe waterways.
Mhm.
All right, what we're looking to avoid are the boating accidents, the boating while intoxicated type things that may come with the casino. So
That would reduce quality of life.
sure would.
What is the, what would be full force for you in Schenectady County, and how close are you now to full force?
Well, our primary focus, what one has to realize is with the county of Schenectady, there are 5 municipalities that have law enforcement.
Niskayuna.
You have Niskayuna, you have Glenville, you have Scotia, you have the city of Schenectady, you have the town of Rotterdam.
Right. Not to
Though-
say I was stopped by all of them. Really, no.
But those municipalities all have their own law enforcement, so we augment them, support them with whatever they need. The only municipalities that do not have their own law enforcement per se is Princetown, the town of Princetown, and the town of DeWaynesburg, which Delanson is part of that that group. So our goal, our mission with respect to our law enforcement is to provide a primary law enforcement service to Princetown and Duanesburg with the ancillary services assisting the other municipalities
So you
within the
patrol
county.
those roads a little more than like.
Right.
Johannesburg.
Correct.
My friend Fred Aliberti lives in,
Fred's out in Duanesburg,
Yeah.
right? I see him on the
That's right.
news every morning with the weather report, with the temperature. He comes on, Channel 60 reports, and I believe all the time.
Well, he used to be the spokesman also for
Yeah.
Albany Police.
Yep.
Since he retired, I went to college with him.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but what do you need to do, how many more officers do you need in terms of being at full force?
I think,
Are you there now?
no, not for my comfort level.
Right.
What I would like to see over the during my tenure is a little bit more of an increase with my road patrol, so I can have a certain number of law enforcement on the roads 24/7. And I would also like, at some point in time, to see an investigative division in addition to the narcotics unit.
Who
Is that
gives you
another
your
20
budget?
Is that doubling what you have now?
That wouldn't be doubling, but it would be increasing, probably at least 50%. If I had 3 more road patrol and maybe 3 to 4 that I could utilize as investigators, I
Who
would.
determines that, the Schenectady County legislature?
That's something that would have to be supported through the county legislator and also the county manager.
Well, through the casino bringing in more revenue, you might be able to, I don't know what the total dollars would be for, not just for salaries, but also for pensions and for health insurance.
Right,
and all that.
it gets expensive.
Yeah.
Certainly law enforcement is an expensive venture. Our department is probably one of the bigger expenditures in the county
Mhm.
with the correctional
I think
facility.
every law enforcement is a larger, aside from Medicaid, aside from, unfunded mandates, I think law enforcement
Ag-
has to be.
Agreed, and my mantra to that has always been, don't balance your budgets on the backs of law
Right.
enforcement, because law enforcement is your stabilizing effect. That is the thing that brings people into your communities. The 2 things I think people ask when they look to move into a community is, number 1, what are the taxes like?
Schools
Yeah, and number 2, what's the crime rate like?
and the schools.
Exactly, and
But it's
that's-
interesting because, I know so many people from foreign countries, they come in and they say, it's interesting, I never heard it before, but really they mimic what you were saying. I never thought of it that way. He says, what makes America great? He says, what? I thought maybe money, the Empire State. He says, because you have such good police department. I never thought of it. I remember I never thought that,
It's
the backbone of America, but just like that, you can't get away with anything. All these South American countries, they're banana republics, they're bribed out. If you have money, you just go where you want.
I'm a firm believer that law enforcement is a staple of your community.
Mhm.
I really believe that. I spent 20 years in Rotterdam, and the one thing that we were raised, in a manner of speaking, or taught, was to be good to your community, to be
Yes.
good to your businesses, and to be good to your community. Spend the extra 5 minutes and I can remember an old chief sitting me in front of him when I was just hired saying, spend the extra 5 minutes with the old lady whose window was broken. Help her clean it up. Spend that time. These are the people that support you when you need to be supported.
Right.
So you need to be supportive of them. And he used to say, treat good people well, treat bad people appropriately. And
I'm glad you still remember.
that I can remember like it was yesterday.
That was
It
good.
was Chief DiCarlo.
Well,
many
it's
years
just
ago.
something,
I
you talk
remember.
about education, I don't know, education with drugs, but education with kids, I remember always, kids, say, oh, there's a policeman there, but, a policeman's your friend if you're clean, and most people are, there's nothing to be afraid of, no one's gonna,
Just the
Exactly.
presence. I mean, you could put an empty police car on the side of the road and people will slow down just because of the presence of seeing a police car.
Sure, there's always a visible deterrence
You know,
with respect to
Policemen.
with respect to law enforcement.
Let me ask you, you mentioned about the be kind to this one, that one, and, you have a good morning neighbor program. What is that? Do you go
Well,
around
that
and
was
say good morning? to everybody?
that started, believe it or not, years ago in the town of Rotterdam. We had what we called the Good Morning Neighbor program, and what that was
Sounds
is.
like a TV show of the 50s.
It was a great program when we had the individual communication centers. Rotterdam ran that program, and that afforded people that either lived alone, that were elderly, or that didn't have family,
Yeah.
that needed some sort of assistance, or might require some sort of assistance
Yeah.
during their day or during their week, to be afforded a phone call every morning to check on their well-being. Okay, and if we got a negative response or no response, we used to send a patrol car. Okay, that was something that we looked to do with the sheriff's office. We have yet to institute that, only because you have had a change in how communications are going in the county now. Before, you had your individual communication centers, your individual dispatch centers with your law enforcement organizations. Now they have gone to one PSAP, or one unified communication center. So they're
It
in the
saves a lot of money, though.
It does. Well, at least it's supposed to, and it's also, very supportive of continuity of operations. Meaning, let's say you have that negative incident on the Mohawk River where 3 municipalities may touch: Rotterdam, Glenville, and the city of Schenectady. Where before you had 3 different dispatch centers dispatching and trying to communicate. Now you have one unified
Well, they do that in
communication center.
too.
Exactly. Well, Albany County's been doing that for a while. We,
You learn from them.
well, you listen, you beg, borrow, and steal from whoever you
It's
can
not-
in this
it's
line of work.
Imitation's the better part of
Absolutely.
flattery, but I just wanted to, I mean, you saw how all the Kinks Albany went through, so you didn't have to repeat the same.
Well, every municipality has their individual,
But
issues with
still,
those things.
It's not always.
But
good
you
to-
try to learn from them and
That's
try to
right.
avoid those issues. Sure.
Also, you have a very aggressive Stop DWI program in the county.
We have worked very hard with our Stop DWI program. We have seen monies decrease over the past few years, but we're still very vigilant in putting out details and putting those patrols out to focus on that. Our obvious goal is always 0 tolerance, 100% compliance. So when we send those details out and we come back with few arrests and we know we were aggressive in our patrols that night, we're actually pleased.
Yeah, it's not a revenue raiser.
Exactly.
It's a safety measure.
Exactly.
Right. What's your canine unit like?
We have 6 canines right
That's a
now.
lot of dogs.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, and they're
Department's
a
going
great
for the dogs.
they're a great tool for law enforcement. They
Really use them a lot?
They really are. Yeah, in many different facets. We have drug canines. We have cadaver canines. We have explosive canines. We have dogs that are cross-trained, and some. Our explosive canines are just for that,
And you
for
don't need
explosive
health insurance
detection.
for them.
No,
You don't
no.
have to pay them.
No,
You
we just feed them and
take them home with you, right?
in
Every
fact,
officer takes them home, right?
In fact, my mom and dad just recently moved, and they had a lab that was about 6 years old, and they couldn't take them with her, or couldn't take her with them where they were moving. They were moving into a condo, so we ended up taking the dog on, and the dog is part of our canine unit now. And
Really?
yeah, it's
But
a
they
drug
have to be
canine.
trained, don't they?
Yep.
I mean,
Yes, they do, and that dog was trained, went through the training.
usually
It was-
they're always German Shepherds, aren't they? Or- No?
We have labs, we have the Belgian Mals, we have Shepherds. They're all very good dogs.
See, I always thought University at Albany canine unit should be a Great Dane.
Be a big
Oh,
dog.
yeah.
I thought it'd be.
That's my alma mater.
Me too. So I always thought of the Great Dane. It should be. In fact, I went to look at it's a canine unit, and I went to look into the car, and that dog went nuts. And the guy the officer was like, "What the F are you doing here?" I was like, "Get away." And I said, I wanted to see if it was a Great Dane. He thought I was nuts. Okay. Well, I have fun in life. Okay. You know what? Operation Safe Child.
Yes.
That's a
Great
must be
program.
important.
Great program.
How old is that, or how recent?
That was in existence prior to my tenure as sheriff. The former Sheriff Baffardi started that program, and that program was born out of the state sheriffs initially. Over a period of time, it's been harder and harder to fund for the state sheriff, so we have taken on, along with other sheriff's offices and other law enforcement organizations that run it.
Child sex abuse and.
I would say we probably have our fair share, relatively
too many.
speaking. Yeah. I'm not a a fan of people that commit sex crimes against children. Not at all.
You probably watch Law and Order SVU?
No.
No.
No, I
Because
don't.
it gets you too boiled to...
You know, like I said, I spent 17 years in the detective division. You know, seen more than my share in real time. I don't care to watch. In fact, I don't watch any law enforcement TV shows. To be
You're
quite
living
honest.
in what do you
I
need?
went down, I'm from Brooklyn, if you can't tell from my accent, but I went down there, and Ken Thompson's the DA, and he brought his, all of his people to a meeting in Coney Island, and all the heads of the units. I mean, he's got a tremendous staff, I mean, it's incredible. And I asked the woman who's the head of the SVU, Special Victims Unit, if the show is accurate. And she goes, yeah, except for the constrained time frame.
Yeah, they solve those
you know,
things in an hour's
yeah.
time with 5 commercials. It doesn't
But-
usually happen like that in real
But
time.
even if you look at the dates
Yep.
that they keep showing as it trails through the
Yep.
episode, you know, you see it happening within a week's time from start to finish. I mean, it's still unrealistic, but aside from that, she said, the show is very much the way they perceive it down.
Those
New York
things
City.
happen that they
Yeah.
show on TV, for sure.
So
You know.
I have friends of mine who
Mm.
can say, oh, that's a takeoff on, oh, that's that issue,
Yeah.
oh, that's the Bernie Madoff one, or that,
Yeah.
you know. They come up to Schenectady once in a while too, on the show.
You know what, I haven't seen them, but
They haven't
I've
asked you
heard-
to be a
yeah.
star?
No,
over
they
there?
haven't.
No
No.
movie
But
star?
they never, they just show Schenectady, they never really come there,
Yep.
because the scene that they show is like from Long Island or something.
Right.
What, you know, when someone wants to go see someone in the jail, and unfortunately I had 1 or 2 friends who were in the Albany County Jail, and bad things happen to good people, but what are the problems that you're seeing, or are your procedures adequate enough where you don't have contraband coming in, or, you know, things are pretty good?
Contraband is always an issue with the correctional facility, and you know, we try to remain vigilant with
Yeah.
respect to vetting that stuff out, utilizing our canines, utilizing our staff as well. Inevitably, it happens.
It does.
We try to minimize that, and we take it very seriously. So when we do come across it, we put the hammer down on those things.
And what's usually the?
It's
who's-
usually some sort of drug
Yeah,
paraphernalia.
but who lets it through? Where's the?
People
It's
visit-
visitors usually coming through.
But is it the people at the desk who don't screen properly for it, or?
No, sometimes it's just missed based
Really?
upon how it's secreted. You know, at times it's been delivered in packages, so we changed our package protocol as well. Always trying to minimize the ability for those things to enter our facility.
And I noticed that, you know, at least in Albany County, you can't, you know, you have a barrier when you meet with an inmate. So you can't even like shake hands or touch, or in the sense that you might be transferring something, but it's
There's-
very rigid. Is that the case in Schenectady County?
There are non-contact visits. There are contact visits where you can hug the person. So you know, those are the things that
But
that
that's
you
where
try
they
to.
get transferred.
It can. It certainly can, and that's where we try to make sure we remain ever vigilant. We always do a thorough search of the inmates when they're leaving visiting as well,
Mhm.
just
Do
to
you
make sure
get
those
to know-
things.
Do you walk the jail?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day I'm down in the facility. Any day that I'm at the jail, I make at least one trip down
Yeah.
through there.
I
go.
gotta tell you, there was a guy, John Bentley, who was the Chautauqua County Sheriff, and he says, when you're in Mayville, come see me, I'll give you a tour. And he goes, oh, that's the usual one, that's the usual suspect, that's the usual suspect. I mean.
You see 'em. You see the
have-
repeats. You do. Yeah.
That's a shame.
It is, you know, we work very hard. It's my belief, if we can make an effort while that person is in our facility to keep him from ever returning by providing programs, well then that's a good thing. So we have focused along, you know, we were talking about the accreditation with the correctional facility. We've also focused on a variety of programs within the facility that will hopefully keep folks from
I
re-entering.
mean, I hear stories from when my friends got out of jail. I never thought I'd be saying this in my life, but that these people who are in jail are planning their next crime because they like 3 hots in a cot. It's a regimen for their lives, that they are planning their next crime to get back into jail. And that's, you see them, come out of jail and within 48 hours, sometimes they're back in.
Some people, unfortunately, become institutionalized and are only able to function in that kind of setting, as sad as that may be. We work very hard to try to break that. We offer vocational programs in our facility. We've recently, 3 of which that we're real happy with right now. One is a culinary skills program that the Malozzi family actually does for us. They have their chef come down. We have a class for males and females. It's an 8-week class.
But that makes you want to go to jail.
Well, hopefully when they're out, they're able to utilize those skills to secure some sort of gainful employment.
Yes.
We also have a painting program that runs approximately 8 weeks, which is part classroom and part hands-on.
Do you think it's a little cushy that people hear this and they go, oh, look, cable TV, cooking class? Do you think that they think it's, or is your response, well, you want to try it sometime?
No, here's my feeling. Essentially, it costs me money to have, it costs our county money to have inmates in our facility.
Yeah.
So if we can provide them some sort of skill
Right.
that's going to keep them from coming back,
Yeah.
well, then we've saved money. And the programs that I'm speaking of
Don't cost them.
don't cost taxpayer a dime.
Right.
Okay, so those are things that I think we would be irresponsible if we didn't at least make those efforts to try to improve somebody's well-being to the point that they can go out and become a productive member of our community. Because otherwise, they're going to be back in for those 3 hots in a cot in the Jerry Springer show, and none of us want to see that.
Speaking of the Jerry Springer show, do you often have fights in the jail, or people are pretty good about behaving themselves?
We work very, very hard on separating potential conflicts that might occur in our facility, but any facility is going to have those negative incidents.
So let me ask you about VineLink quickly, because I think that's a unique program. It's a victim information and notification every day. So what is that about?
Well, Vine initially started off with domestic violence, okay, when you had an individual that was incarcerated as a result of domestic violence or some sort of crime against another person. That person was afforded the opportunity of a phone call or a notification when that individual was going to be released from a facility. So, that's a very, very important program. We feel we participate with it. We support it wholeheartedly. Simply put, if we can avoid having a person being a reoccurring victim as a result of a release.
Well, you said it started with domestic violence. What is it?
Well, now I think it's gone beyond that now. So if you're a victim of a crime and that perpetrator is being released, I think you can be notified of that release or sign up to be notified of that release when that individual becomes eligible.
I asked you about law and order, and obviously you're the order or you're the law or you're the order.
Depends on who you ask, Mark.
Right? So how well do you work with the DA? Because I'm sure that you have to work
hand in hand with the district attorney. Our district attorney is very proactive in our county, and he's done a great job with the violent crimes that they prosecute on a daily basis there. Yeah. They've got a very strong record in prosecuting those cases.
Fred Goodman, who works...
Fred works with the county attorney's office, yep.
Yeah. I went to college with him.
Yeah, Fred's a good man.
So do you have, so you're comfortable with the working relationship?
We have a very good working relationship with the district attorney's office, very much so, especially with our narcotics unit.
Yeah, that's it. So I want to ask you, I got this New York State Sheriff's Association card from Albany County Sheriff. Do you
Yes, we have those. We have the press cards. If you're interested, I could send you a couple of those as well.
Thank you.
I got something out of the
This
deal
one's a
over
little
here.
torn and
Yeah, I see
tattered,
that.
and it's from last year,
Yeah.
so if you could, that would be nice.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you.
Sheriff, thank you very much for being on the Jewish Free. You're doing so much, really, like you say, police. It's actually, just to put in the Jewish idea just for 10 seconds, it is one Jewish idea doesn't, not everybody should be Jewish. Jewish people, few people, but certain things the Jewish religion does encumber the population. That is to set up civil courts, which means the police, that there should be, or like that, if people start acting like animals, you know, if they wouldn't have police around and the courts around. So you're doing a special function for the people of Schenectady County. And keep up the good work and do it with good health.
Well, thank you so very much, and it's a
Continued success.
pleasure being here today.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for having me.